All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Welcome to the PM Therapy Podcast Live. So excited to get on air again. Well, to come live. So with me is our very exceptional PM career coach, Boomi. Boomi, why don't you introduce yourself to those people that don't know who you are?
Okay. Hi, once again. Hello, everyone. And if you're just tuning in for the first time, welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Bumi, and I am a PM coach, right? I feel like PM is like my second lifeline, actually. So I actually enjoy coaching professionals like yourselves in the PM space. And when I am not doing PM things, I have my second full time job as a very active mom. Like I would always say. So yeah, that's and I enjoy the best of both worlds too. So you're welcome to today's session, and we have a really interesting topic that we'll be delving into. And I can't wait to see how this spans out.
Yeah, nice. By the way, before we continue, do you also do PMing in your personal life?
Uh do you want the honest answer or the the social media
Yeah,
answer?
the honest answer. This is PM therapy.
Okay, so I do a mix of both.
Yeah.
It's a good blend of both worlds. Yeah.
Yeah, no, because that was the poll today. The poll today was like,
Yeah.
PM, be honest. Do you all are you also as organized in your personal life? For me, like I feel like I'm very organized in
Mhm.
my professional life, but I don't know if it's another side of me that's just rebelling, but I
Yeah.
just want to leave that at work.
I
Um,
mean, being a new mom has also taught me a lot of things, and it's so hard to stay 100% organized. I try,
yeah,
yeah, but then I must admit it could be a bit difficult sometimes.
yeah. 100%. All right. So for those of you that don't know, my name is Mukhtar. I'm a PM career coach as well. I've been in the PM space for a while. I've worked in various industries, and I love teaching and coaching, which is why I do this. And what I normally focus on right now is helping people navigate their careers, land jobs that they love. All right. All right. So now the topic for today is AI and the job search, right? So we're going to just talk about how AI is sort of affecting the entire job search ecosystem, if I can put it that way. A tall order, but we'll try. So the way we're thinking of driving this conversation is we're going to look at it from both perspectives, from the perspective of the job seeker and from the perspective of the employer, right? So, the job seeker, there are different, how should I put this out? There are different, I guess, touch points, before you can actually get the job. So we're going to look at, when it comes to resumes, when it comes to applications, when it comes to interviews, so just the entire, the various touch points or activation points, if I can put it that way, along the job search journey. Like, how is AI impacting the entire journey, right? So that's sort of what we're going to talk about. I hope that makes sense. And then also from the employer's perspective, we're also going to we're also going to explore how AI is being used now. All right. So by the way, if you have any questions, just drop them in the chat as always, and or comment, and we will try to get to them, weave them into the conversation. All right. Bumi, you ready?
Sure, let's go for it.
Hey there, just quickly, are you looking for a PM role? Have you been struggling in this insane, crazy job market? Well, if this sounds like you, we might be able to help you. We've helped lots of people land 100 to 300K PM roles. All you have to do is just click on the link below, answer some questions. And if we see that there's an initial fit, you will be invited to a free 30-minute call where we can further assess your job search goals and challenges. And if we see that we'll be able to help you, we would explain to you how we can do that and what the next steps will be. All right, then, back to the show. All right. So we're going to start with looking at the perspective of the job seeker. Okay. And we can start with resumes. So now, a lot of candidates use AI to tailor their resumes, right? But the thing is that I've seen some recruiters complain about job seekers using AI. Like some of them, it's almost like you're cheating on your homework, right? So what are your thoughts there, Bumi? Like what do you think about that?
Um, and it's actually quite interesting, Mukhtar, because while we have a lot of, not a lot now, like a few recruiters complain about people using AI to build their resumes or tailor their resumes, we now actually have a couple of companies that, are ready to hire people that are AI savvy, right? So it's like a form of contradiction, right? But to speak
Mhm.
to what you just said, I would say that AI is actually not the enemy, right? AI is not the enemy. And with the rate at which we're moving, especially with technology, I think a lot of people need to get open-minded in terms of adapting these tools, because it's here to stay, and we're going to see a lot of this, in the near future. The future is already here. So when it comes to using AI to tailor your resumes, I would say to job seekers out there to still have allow your resumes to still have that human touch, right? Because in as much as it is AI, it is not you. You are the ones that have carried out the project. You are the ones that can actually say what your impact is, or what your impact was on the project that you have worked on. AI can only give suggestions, right? It can only if infer. So at the end of the day, the onus lies on you to still have that human touch on your resumes before concluding that your resumes are very good to go for submission, or for application, right? And on the flip side, when it also comes to how recruiters perceive the resumes, I would say that most resumes also go through ATS systems, which nowadays we have these ATS systems as being AI powered, right? So I'm almost tempted to say it's a case of pot calling the kettle black, right? We have that as like an African adage, right? So yeah, I think having a very good balance to these things, would drive the way forward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I think you mentioned some interesting points there. Now, for the job seeker, do you have any recommendations in terms of maybe how to use AI for the resume? So, do you start with AI and then end with the human touch, like you mentioned, or do
Yes.
you
So I would say
start?
that.
Yeah, go on, go on. Yeah.
All right. So I would say you can start with AI, right? You can allow AI, write your bullet points, give it structure, give it some, yeah, give it structure basically. But at the end of the day, it's still important that you still go in with your voice, right? There's nothing like having that human touch or having that human feel, on your resume. So for speed, when it comes to speed, when it comes to, accelerating your tailoring time, or the time you use to build your resume, I would say you can actually start with AI. And I know that at the moment, the job market is actually highly competitive. And it's really crazy because we have job postings that are being put up in 24 hours. And by the time you are, checking how many people have applied to that job post, you're seeing over 100 people click apply and have eventually applied for that role. So the time you're spending to, build your resumes traditionally, or from the scratch, you can actually use that time to sort of speed up the process with AI. So move fast with AI, but before you conclude on that resume or ascertain its readiness, I would say still have your eyes on it, and validate the points basically that AI has generated for you before going on with that application. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense. I think from my perspective, I kind of, the way I sort of use AI is that I would start with my own thoughts. Like I would just have a brain dump, just
Hmm.
put it on paper, and then have AI refine, and then I would now like put my own finishing touches, right? So I think that's sort of my system. I mean, if I have an idea of, you know, what I if I have an idea to begin with, so it
Yeah.
starts with me, AI comes in the middle, and then it ends with me. But if I'm like, you know, if I need help with idea generation, then for me it starts with AI and then ends with me. So
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's pretty interesting. So I think one thing that we can also share is because there is, how do you best tailor your resume so that you can apply quickly, like what you mentioned, right? Because time is of the essence. Speed is the name of the game now. um, so one thing that we recommend is that you can build a master resume that will be sort of like a repository of all your skills and all your experience, right? So this resume might be multiple pages long. It can even be up to like 7 pages long, right? So it's like you have everything that you can possibly, like, everything from your professional experience, if I can put it that way. And then when it's time for you to submit an application for a role, you take that master resume and then you subtract information that's not necessary, and you just have that tailored resume. So I find that, and we found that this method tends to be more efficient, as opposed to
Yeah.
you always just taking a resume and always trying to like add things. So it's like you're subtracting things as opposed to adding things. I don't know. What are your thoughts there for me?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, that's a system that has been, that has been proven to work. So the master resume, like we love to call it, is like a bank of, a bank of information. So it has all of your experiences, it has all of your skill sets, within it. It has all of your metrics, right? So once you have that master resume ready, all you have to do is feed it into a platform like ChatGPT, so to speak, and then you can now run your prompts like, okay, can you tailor this resume against this job description? Now, it's the great thing about AI, in this case, is that it actually sees things that the human eye misses, right?
Mhm.
So what I would spend hours searching through or even going through, AI might, find those words in seconds, basically. But I think a caveat, has to go in there, and that's the part of
Yeah, I think we lost Boomi. So yeah, should probably come back. But just to continue, so Boomi was sort of going, tactical. So I think one thing that we found that has helped people is that you have this master resume that is about, I don't know, 6 to 7 pages. It has like all your information there, and then you have the job description, and then you put both of them into like an AI, like a Chat GPT or something, and then you tell Chat GPT will now just pick things from your master resume that pertain to the job description, right? So we found that like that seems to be faster. I that seems to be a fast method. I know when I use that method, it takes about 7 to 10 minutes to tailor the resume. All right. So that is for tailoring resume. So now we can move on to applications. Well, sorry, before we move on to applications, one thing that's also very important is that when you do tailor your resume, don't forget to also do outreach, like you follow up with people on the inside, right? One thing that we recommend is you reach out whenever you apply. Try to reach out to 4 people. So the recruiter, the hiring manager, somebody in senior leadership, and then maybe a pair, right? So you can try to reach out to these people. It just really increases your chance that you would hear back. All right. Okay. So now let's move on to applications. All right. Now, how is AI being used for applications? Now, I don't know if some of you have heard about these auto bots. So like they're, one of them is like Lazy Apply. So what they do is basically they automate the entire job search for you, right? I think some of these they can do like 1,000 applications at once. um yeah, so I think here are my thoughts. So you have pros and you have cons to it. Am I still live? Okay, yes, I'm still live. Sorry, I thought I lost. So I thought I lost you. So you have pros and you have cons to it. The pro is that you save time. You can do a lot of applications at once, and you don't have to deal with the rejections, right? Because the AI is just applying on your behalf to a lot of applications. And at the end of the day, when you do a lot of applications, you're going to get some interviews. Now, the drawback of this system is that, number one, AI hallucinates. So that's one. The second is that AI can apply to the wrong roles, right? I remember somebody actually did an experiment with this, and this person was an Asian lady. But you know how, like, in when you're applying, you have to actually fill out demographic information, and the AI actually picked that she was a black person, a black woman, right? So it's like, okay, you're now misrepresenting information. So AI hallucinates. And also, I think companies are also getting smarter in terms of detecting when people use these tools, and you can end up being blacklisted, right? So I think when somebody used this application, there have been articles written on this, but when somebody used this application, like out of like 1,000 or thousands of applications, they got only about 15 interviews, right? So, I mean, you're getting interviews, but your conversion rate is very low. And the other, like, I don't know, 975 or 85 interviews, the other 985 applications, you don't know what damage that has done, to your professional brand, right? So, that will be, these are some things to consider on the cons side of things. All right. So, my opinion, my advice is, I try to stay away from these tools. I think that you can use AI, but you can use it, in terms of speeding up how you tailor your resume, speeding up, how you write emails, how you follow up, and all of that, but not necessarily just being hands off and letting an AI tool, do the work for you. But this is my opinion. Curious to hear from any of you. Please, if you have any thoughts on this, put that in the chat. All right. So the next will be interview prep. Now, I think this is pretty straightforward. Many people use AI for interview prep, and if you're not doing that, I think it's a good tool to use. One thing that you can just use, that you can grab the job description, put it in your AI tool, and just ask it, like, what are the top 10 questions that you think will be asked, for an interview that's coming up with this role. You can even challenge AI. Okay, make this even more challenging. All right. So yeah, these are some things that you can do. So I think, Boomi, you're back.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Yeah. All good. Yeah. So right now, what I'm talking about is interview prep. So I was just telling folks that when it comes to interview prep, I think it's pretty straightforward. If you want help using AI, you just put the job description in ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini, and then you can ask it to give you questions that will come out in the interviews. I was also mentioning that you can also challenge AI as well, because sometimes I usually, like, when I'm preparing, I like to be over prepared so that the actual thing is not as challenging. And anything else that you want to share there or chime in when it comes to using AI for interview prep, Boomi? All right. I think we lost Boomi again. She's having internet issues. All right. All good. So now the next one is gonna be live interviews. So now there are a couple of ways that AI sort of feeds into or touches live interviews. Now, there have been reports of people using deep fakes to actually do interviews for them. I think there was according to Resume Genius, about 17% of hiring managers have encountered candidates using deepfake to alter their videos during video interviews. Yeah, so if any of you have any experience, or you've heard about people using deepfakes for interviews, you can put that in the chat. Another one that I've actually seen is when people are using ChatGPT or something live on an interview to get feedback, right? So I've actually seen candidates when I'm interviewing them, or when we're doing a case study live session. Um, it takes them a while to come up with very simple questions. All right. So yeah, this is something that comes up. Um, yeah, and Bumi, you're back, right? Are you back?
Yes, yes, I am.
All right, awesome. So right now we are talking about using AI for live interviews. Um, Now, the other thing that I think is coming up now is screening calls. So a lot of times, humans used to do screening calls, but now companies are moving towards using AI at least as that first screening call. Now, I know there's a lot of controversy around this. So maybe we can talk about this a bit, right? So when it comes to AI screening interviews, so the way it works is that you will get a link. Like many companies will just give you, they'll tell you, okay, you're going to do an interview. Some companies don't do a very good job of telling you that it's going to be an AI interview. So it's happened that candidates will show up and then they will actually be disappointed, right? So the the so when you're going to these interviews, you should be as ready as possible. Sorry, I was drawing a blank. I don't know if that made sense. But all right, so screening interviews. Now let's talk about what are the pros and what are the cons. So from the perspective of the hiring team, um, it is more efficient, right? Because the hiring teams are usually flooded with a lot of applications, right? Sometimes they get thousands of applications. Um, so this is a way of them just easily assessing everybody in the candidate pool, right? So it's more efficient. I think another thing is that it is, you can think of it that, okay, maybe this is a way to have an objective assessment of everybody, right? Because if you have a human there, the human might be subjective. I mean, it depends on depending on their bias, depending on maybe they're hungry or they're tired, their emotional state, right? They can assess people differently. So I don't know. What are your thoughts there, Bumi? Anything you want to add?
Yeah, so this is another, really controversial topic, and I'm just going to pin on the bias, when it comes to, these screening calls. I would say that AI might only be as biased as the data it is actually trained on, right? Because I was before I dropped off the other time, I was trying to, make a point in terms of um when you're tailoring resumes, we see things like, generic words, overused buzzwords and the likes, right? AI has its downsides. And in terms of using that to judge how qualified a person is for a role, I think that there might be a bit of bias there, right? It has its own belief, it has its own downsides, So I would say that it also has to do with how it analyzes, this person's qualifications, in terms of how it analyzes like your facial expressions, your accent, you know, there might be a bit of bias there because overall it's a trained system, right? So I would I would say that's not really, that's not really conclusive in terms of, I might not be able to pin it down to say AI is actually helpful, when it comes to screening candidates. And I also cannot say it is not helpful, right, when it comes to
Mm.
screening candidates as well. I would say having a very good balance to things, still counts. If it were possible to have this, so I think this makes me remember, an example of something that happened sometimes last week, right? So there was a case where a client had gone in for an interview, and I had that, recorded. I had encouraged, the client to actually sort of record that interview session. So if I were to be a recruiter, right, I would have my interview recorded, see things from my own perspective, which is the human perspective, and then still run that through an AI system just in case I am missing anything. So for me, I would say when it comes to adapting AI tools or when it comes to using, AI in the hiring process, either from the perspective of a recruiter or the employer, or the perspective of the employee or the potential employee, I would say the key word there is balance, actually. Balancing how you use AI and also balancing how you use your human judgment as well, because a lot of times we might skip a lot of things. AI tends to skip. AI is not 100% perfect, and our own human sense as well isn't 100% perfect. So a good balance, to both worlds can help us, get better results in terms of either hiring a candidate or also landing that job offer. So that would be my thought there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So I think a couple of points to add on the con side, because I give some of the pros. What are the pros of using AI? On the con side, I think one is, how are what's the criteria? What's the success criteria? Like, that is opaque to many people, right? And I don't know that companies would even divulge that, right, for fear of lawsuits and
Yeah.
all of that, right? And I think I'd mentioned this before in the previous LinkedIn Live, is that okay when something goes wrong, because the hiring is a very, very sensitive, um, it's a very, very sensitive endeavor, right? And that's why you have all these labor laws, anti-discriminatory laws, and and all of these things, right? So when something goes wrong, who's to blame, right?
Yeah.
Is it gonna be the company, that's the software vendor? Is it gonna be the
Mhm.
employer? Is it gonna be like the person who set up the system? So where does ownership or accountability lie, right? So I think that this is one murky area that still needs to be figured out. Another
Yeah.
thing is privacy concerns. So they're taking all your data, they're analyzing your facial expression and everything, and sensitive data. What's that data being used for?
Mhm.
So yeah, yeah, and it's like, basically, because you have to have a job, because you really need a job to survive, you are
Yeah.
just giving out your data, and you don't know what that data is going to be used for, right? So I think these are some things that need to be considered, or maybe on the con side. Yeah.
Yeah, and also just to add to some of the things you have highlighted. So for a few seconds, getting into this call, I had like an internet glitch. Right now, if this were to be like a real life interview, a
Hmm.
human recruiter, would understand like these things
Yeah.
happen, right? But then an AI platform might just, mark you
Yeah.
down unfairly, or even, even penalize you. So there
Yeah.
are consequences, right, to these things. So I would say that AI interviews are not entirely bad, just to, buttress my point, but they should not still replace that human, interaction. So when you are interviewing someone as a human recruiter, right, you can actually tell from this person's facial, expression, how enthusiastic they are, about the, role. You can, we can even find like a common ground. I think we call it commonalities, right? Maybe especially when candidates want to like have that icebreaker before the actual interview, right? Oh, I went through your profile, I saw that we are alumni of the same school. We can't do that with any AI platform. So once candidates have the feeling like, okay, especially the companies that are nice enough to give you the heads up, right? Like you're going in for an AI interview. I feel like that also adds to the tension. Like, oh my God, am I going to be 100% prepared, for this interview? What do I expect? But with that human, when that human interaction is there, you can still have like icebreakers, just to set the tone for the rest
Mm.
of the interview. So yeah, it has its pros and definitely has its cons.
Yeah, no, I hear you, but let me be a bit of a contrarian. I would say that for some people, some personality types might prefer AI. Is like, I don't like small talk. I just like to answer questions directly. I don't like to be chummy. I like to
Mhm.
be structured. So I feel like some people might actually prefer, AI is like, all right, you ask me a question. I'm just going to use the star method. It's going to be
Yeah.
structured. I will give it to you. And then the AI will analyze that. And maybe the AI will really like that. Like, it's like, you're making my job easy. You're really structuring it, in a very
Yeah.
logical way for me. So I don't know. So
I think
I,
that's where the bias lies, actually, right? Because we don't know what that AI, platform has been trained or not trained with, basically. So what if the AI platform, because I have conversations with ChatGPT, so I feel ChatGPT already understands my voice, it understands my tone and personality, right? Because I have trained it that way. So what if the AI platform has been trained to really be on the soft side, like when it comes to interview processes? Different companies, different policies as well. So
yeah,
that would be my pushback, on that. It
good point.
definitely also has its bias.
Yeah, no, good point. And like AI is like the they've advanced so much now that you can have different. I know, like ChatGPT, you have different voice. You have different. You can make it adapt different personalities, right? Like
Yeah,
I use the voice mode, and it's almost like having a real conversation. Like the
yeah,
latency is like down to having a real life, conversation, and you can hear the intonation in the person's voice. Like they match your
hmm,
own, voice, and they can hear your emotions from your voice,
yeah.
like, yeah. So because I chat with ChatGPT quite often, so it's like, oh, sounds like they're having a bad day. It's scary, but you know
It feels
yeah,
like a therapist now, like you're
yeah,
attending a therapy session.
yeah. Actually, it's funny you mentioned that, but that's actually one of the main use cases right now for
Hmm.
for like these AI tools. So there's companionship, and then there's
Yeah,
there's therapy as well.
yeah,
I mean, it's not something that people necessarily talk about, but like, a lot of the use cases are companionship and therapy. So that's
yeah. And
that's
then
pretty.
your secret is definitely safe unless there's a data a data leak somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. No, your secret is safe with that company, and then they can use that to advertise to you, and before you know it, yeah, you're buying things that you don't know, that you don't need. You know.
Yeah.
All right. So Kevin left a comment saying AI to assist to update your CV just to fast track and tailor specific roles that you're applying to. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think that I think that AI is here to stay, and it's going to even
Yeah.
become more entrenched in like the entire hiring process. So we need to adapt and use it to our advantage, right? Um, all right, so we're already now talking about AI from the employer's perspective. So I guess we talked about interviews. One thing that I also wanted to chat about is from a screening perspective. Like, even when it comes
Mm.
to assessing resumes, I know, like, a lot of times, I don't know if you've seen this, but a lot of times on LinkedIn, there are many recruiters that say, "Hey, the ATS system does not reject." Like, there's this anti-ATS, like, no, actually, we read everything. And I don't know. So I haven't worked I've done recruiting, but I haven't been, an HR person. So I have to be humble. But to me, I find it difficult to believe that these recruiters, they go through thousands of applications, right? And they go through everyone, because, like, the impression I get is like, no, 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 the ATS is not rejecting your this, and, like, that's actually laughable. We
Yeah.
Everything is, like, read by humans. I find that difficult to believe. Like, why would it be? First of all, from a business perspective, like, why is it in the best interest of a company to go through thousands of applications? Like, if you've just gone to 100 and you found good enough candidates, like, what's the return on investment to go through 1,000? Like,
Yeah.
it's not a charity, so, and if the job market is using AI, and the job market is becoming more productive, and the volume of applications have increased drastically, like, I don't know, it makes sense that you would also employ AI to help sort out
Yeah.
that, right? So I don't know. What are your thoughts there?
Well, if I'm to be honest, and this is like my, my view, my opinion, I definitely do not believe that, right? Because like you said, the time it takes to have human eyes on 1,000 applications, you can as well convert that time to giving feedback to 100 or even 50 people,
Yeah.
right? Because most times applications just tend to get lost and recruiters tend to ghost people a lot of times. So
Yeah.
if you're actually, reviewing these applications, like having human eyes on them, why can't you take that extra time to give a response? At least most people are just really, in quotes, dying for a response. I need to know, did you see my application, right? Or am I getting rejected, or are you moving on with me, right? So I feel like that's not true. I think a lot of people right now are a lot of companies right now are heavily, have a heavy use of AI platforms, from their ATS platforms to every other tool they might be using. But in my opinion, I would say that it is not possible to review thousands of applications without involving the use of an AI platform. And that also would tell on the human mind. I mean, by the time you're even reviewing, say, 50 applications in 1 week, unconsciously, right, because you're exhausted or you are tired, or you're hungry or feeling sleepy, you might transfer that emotion into the next applicant's,
Yeah.
resume, and give like a really biased judgment on that. So for me, I would say they should, companies should just come out plain, right, in their processes, or with their policies, their hiring process or policies, and just tell us what it really is. Yeah, so that's that's my thoughts.
Yeah, and the technology is already there. Like, I mean, right now,
Mhm.
candidates are using AI to tailor their resumes to the job
Yeah,
description, right? So the technology is there. The same technology can be used to sift through all the resumes and say, okay, these are actually the best 10, right?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't, yeah, that's why it's difficult for me to buy that companies
It
don't
feels
do
like a
that.
lot of people are trying to actually fight it, right? A lot of people don't want to admit or they don't want to, accept that AI is actually here to stay, right?
Mm,
Because why would you say, okay, if we detect the use of AI in your application or in your resumes, we're definitely going to, just reject your application. You're not
yeah,
even giving that person a chance,
yeah,
right, to prove themselves. But at the end of the day, most of your tools, within your organization, or even most PM tools right now, I don't know if we should go there, but most PM tools right now are, either fully AI powered, or they have certain features right now, that are AI powered. So it still falls back to what you've said, right? You are rejecting something, and then you are still making use of it
yeah.
in your organization. So it really doesn't, balance out.
Yeah, and many companies are, pivoting, they're maybe calling themselves an AI first company. So they are
Yeah,
AI first to their customers, but when it comes to the hiring process, no, no, no,
yeah,
let's go back and be Luddites, right? So anyway,
yeah.
that's pretty interesting. Um, all right, let's see. So we've talked about screening, we've talked about interviews. Now, I think some other aspects that companies use AI. So now I think some companies are now deploying like chatbots, where
Yeah.
some of these questions that you might have. Okay, how should I dress for the interview? Like some frequently asked questions. So you, instead of you asking the recruiter, you can just ask the chatbot.
Hmm.
Um, and then when it comes to also scheduling as well, so AI can help with the scheduling instead of that back and forth. Yeah. So I think this is the perspective from the employers. I don't know, anything you want to add there before we wrap up, Bumi?
No, I think we've actually touched on, on critical points. But then again, I would say, I think I also said this earlier, that while AI is actually here to stay, it should not replace that actual human, that human connection. The human connection still matters, right? Because you are dealing with humans on a daily basis when it comes to recruiting, so it shouldn't replace it at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. For sure. Yeah. So I guess we can wrap up with maybe just overall advice. So I think you've already started that. One thing that I would add is I would say expect more AI, because the job search market is crazy. Um, HR departments are being overwhelmed, so I think that there would even be more AI just coming into the mix to try to just streamline things. So I would say expect more AI. So it's a matter of adapting, and also on the job seekers side as well. There will probably be more AI tools coming onto the market because there are a couple of things. Number one, now with AI, it's easier to build, right? So you are going to see more solutions just coming onto the market. So keep your eyes peeled and use them to your advantage, I would say. But don't forget to always don't trust the AI completely, like Bumi said. The other thing that I'll add is I think building your reputation, your brand. I think that that's even more important now that a lot of resumes are polished. Now it's difficult to find typos in resumes. And resumes are optimized to the T. So finding ways to stand out, like building your brand, I think that that's something that would really help. um, another thing that I would say is like outreach is going to be even more important, like networking and all of that. So I think gone are the days where you just rely on your resume, right? So your resume can't just do the talking for you. You need to go, one extra step, right? So
Yeah.
these are the additional things that I think we should keep in mind. Anything else you want to add, Bumi?
Yeah, just to add, I mean, you've raised really important points, Mukta, especially part of building your brand, or like we like to call it thought leadership, right? But I would say, in addition to that, that people should not make the mistake of thinking that AI would do everything for them, or that AI is 100%, perfect. I think AI is just a tool, right? It doesn't beat strategy, right? So you have your strategy when it comes to your job search process, right? You already understand your goals, what you want to achieve. You already understand the industry you want to apply to. You already understand, the kind of people that you want to connect with. So this is your own human perspective that AI might not 100% accomplish for you. So I would say, while you can use AI to sort of speed up your tasks, right, still put your mind and heart into what matters, which is your brand, like Mukhtar said, your story, your values, your impact, and overall, your confidence. That is something that AI can never, replace. Yeah.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. And we're coming to the conclusion, but I see Theophilus is leaving. Left some comments. So let's see. Hey, Bumi, you're spot on. AI should never take over the human touch, but we should not trust AI completely. Yeah, yeah. And also building your brand and having and be strong on networking. So coffee chats are top of my list. Okay, nice. Yeah, coffee chats are I think a very very important way to get on the inside. I know that many people do convert because they say about 60 to 80% of all jobs are hidden, right? And a lot of times it's conversations that lead to those opportunities, right? And coffee chats are a good way to unlock those opportunities. I mean, we know of several people that have done that, like they have a coffee chat and before you know it they have an interview, just from coffee chats, right? So I think that that's something that you know you, we should all lean into, right? But the one thing I would say about coffee chats is that you want to make sure that you go in prepared and you are driving the conversation, right? Because typically you're asking for 15 minutes of the person's time, and how it's almost like an interview in a way, because you're face to face with the decision maker and you're making an impression, right? So you want
Yeah.
to come up, organize, you have an agenda, you drive it, and you respect the person's time, right? And when you do that, when you make a good impression, that person can now introduce you to their network, right, on the
Hmm.
inside, right? So yeah, no, thanks for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to employers, just let me be the employee advocate here, right? To employers, I would say, please stay curious, right? Stay adaptable. You know, your next best talent might just be between, I mean, the gap between you and your next best hire or talent might just be your AI tool. Your AI tool. So stay adaptable, stay open-minded, and also don't allow AI, do not allow AI replace your human judgment. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. All right, nice. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will be in touch.
Yeah.
Hopefully by next week. All right. All right. Take care,
Take
y'all.
care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.